We have another video up on the channel right now talking about Malachi Moreno being named the MVP of the Indiana-Kentucky Senior All-Star Game over the weekend. And one of the interesting parts of this was that it was Braylon Mullins versus Malachi Moreno, two very good friends, two teammates with Indiana Elite. And after the game, both these guys showed out, but we got some comments from Braylon Mullins on his decision and how he ended up at UConn instead of Kentucky. If you remember, put yourself back a year ago, what we were talking about in the summer on this channel almost every single day. It was basically the Braylon Mullins recruitment, right? Constantly, it was the where's he going to go? Does he want to play for Mark Pope? Does he not? You had all of these blue bloods wanting to get involved with Braylon, and we watched him rise from a four-star recruit to a kid that had offers from the most prestigious schools in the country. He also, I don't know, he did the thing that some people didn't expect. A lot of people expected he might end up at Kentucky. And in the end, no, he chose UConn and Dan Hurley. At the time, it seemed like a great decision. As time went on, I mean, it still seems like a great decision, don't get me wrong. But UConn today looks a lot different than UConn did last summer, just in theory. They're no longer the two-time defending national champs. And Mark Pope's Kentucky program has a lot of momentum. So Mullins spoke specifically on what led him to UConn over Kentucky. And I'm just going to read a couple quotes that he gave to KSR. Shout out to the KSR guys, as always. But Braylon Mullins said after this event, uh, my options were just expanding. I think I just got into that relationship with UConn much earlier than I did with Kentucky. It just went different ways. I mean, I still like both programs, so it is what it is. Pope's a great coach. I learned a lot about my analytics within basketball, just like the numbers. He showed me how I can grow, showed me what I could have expanded my game with them. He's really good at that. He's probably doing a whole lot with all those guys at Kentucky right now. A lot of very pointed Kentucky, why didn't you go here based questioning, I think. But Braylon pretty transparent in how he answered this. Any thoughts on his answers here of why he chose UConn over Kentucky?
I mean, I got to go back though to like when this originally happened, and there was a lot to be said about when you watch Braylon Mullins play. And I guess I'll ask you this and ask you if you still feel the same because we always know the buzzword with Mark Pope is, man, that guy would look good in a Mark Pope offense. Um, is it not the smart and right decision for Braylon Mullins to go to UConn, given what Hurley has done and accomplished, and also like what he has done, I think, in the offense that he runs at UConn?
I don't think there was a wrong decision,
Okay.
but I don't know if I would call it the right decision. But I like choose UConn with Hurley, choose Kentucky with Pope, choose Purdue, given all they return and what that team's going to be this year. None of those would have been the wrong decision. The wrong decision would have been go to Indiana as Mike Woodson gets fired. But there's a reason he
But
didn't do that.
but instead he's going to play for the back-to-back national champ or the
Former,
former back-to-back national champions.
former.
Former. But they
Yeah,
were
former.
when he committed, they were the back-to-back national champions.
Correct. This video is brought to you by NBA 2KLab.com. 2K Lab worked with us last summer as well. They're one of our favorite entities in all of sports gaming. We want to show you their college basketball stadium locator challenge game. And I'm going to share a screen right now as we do this. South Carolina, bang. Oh,
Ooh,
okay, that's pretty good. Next, North Carolina. Why are we only getting the Carolinas?
please
Bang.
lock in.
St. John's, that's New
New
York.
York. Well,
Bang.
that's New Jersey.
We're on fire. Colorado. I actually don't know what state Colorado is.
It's it's in Colorado. There's a state of
Is that
Colorado.
this one?
It's to the right of Phoenix.
Anyway, you get the picture. This game's really fun. They've got more games as well, like Guess the NBA Player, Mystery Fantasy Draft, and more. Stay tuned for all of the college football content and games that they'll be putting together to help you get the best experience out of college football 26. Back to the video.
So, I mean, I think he makes a lot of good points, right? I also think that, I'm not saying that there were wrong decisions to be made, but I do think that he made there, like you said, there was multiple right choices, but I do think he made the right choice.
Why do you believe that it was the right choice?
Well,
over
I mean, also
Alabama.
given at the time, wasn't there a couple more questions about Mark Pope?
Sure, yeah.
So, like, given the timing of it all, it made a lot of sense to me. And I honestly, even going back, I don't know if that would be right for that decision to change. I mean, obviously, Kentucky was in for a two guard. They had like the Lamar Wilkersons and things like that of the world. Would they have wanted to go after Braylon Mullins? I'm sure, surely, yes, they would.
Yeah.
But I still think he would come and make. I still think he'd come to the decision that he would go to UConn.
What's his role going to be at UConn?
Probably the starting three.
They got Solo Ball back. They got Alex Caravan back. They brought in Silas Demery to run the point.
Yeah, I mean,
Got two great centers.
I think I'd go Demery Ball, Mullins, uh, and then Caravan, Reed, Ribey, whichever one you want.
A lot of good wings on the bench that have put a lot of time and years into that program, though.
Yeah, very true. But you need shooting,
You do.
you need scoring,
You do. Isn't Solo Ball there to shoot?
you need guys that can
Isn't
dribble and
Alex
shoot.
Caravan there to score?
You need guys that can dribble and
What would
shoot.
his role have been at Kentucky for this upcoming Mark Pope team that's considering starting Denzel Aberdeen?
Go make sure that Otega Oweh can show he can shoot.
Wouldn't he have been Robin?
Watch Jalon Lowe clank shots.
He wouldn't have been the Robin to Otega's Batman?
Would he have been? You think?
I do think.
Hmm.
I look, it's not the wrong decision. UConn's going to be better next year than Kentucky, I think. But the way it shaped out, opportunity wise, I think there's a chance he comes off the bench at UConn, depending on what they do with the vet wings. They're gonna start and feature Solo and Caravan. So you have one spot you're competing with every backup wing for at UConn. Mullins is a kid who's talked about getting to the professional ranks as quickly as possible. I think he would have played 32 minutes at Kentucky, probably started next to Otega Oweh and been the second leading scorer in a perfect system for him.
I honestly I feel like Mark Pope would have brought him off the bench for Aberdeen.
Oh, I don't know about that. Maybe. Maybe. Look, we don't know. A lot of hypotheticals being thrown around. But if we're just looking at like rosters, I think he would have had an easier time finding a featured role in year one in Mark Pope's offense, competing
That
with Colin Chandler, Trent Noah, and Denzel Aberdeen.
that's the correct take because he immediately would be the second best player on Kentucky.
But he couldn't have known that at the time. And also, Braylon Mullins is a kid that seemingly wants to win. So who's to say he would have even chosen this anyway? Also, again, they're both top 10 teams. So acting like one is way better than the other is not true. It's just UConn has, I think, a little more wing depth or wing upside shots than Kentucky does next season. But I find it interesting that he's like talking this transparently about it. Like I don't know. Do you think Braylon Mullins like wants to be being asked questions about Kentucky? Is this the last time he's going to have to talk about him spurning Kentucky?
He's going to keep playing in these All-Star games, then no.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The way Kentucky high school basketball coverage just works is fascinating to me. You know?
Also, like he will ever forever be the face of like the first big recruit that spurned Mark
Oh,
Pope.
this is true.
Like he did it.
This is true.
So
Interesting. Oh,
that's always going to be a tag with him, unfortunately, by Kentucky fans.
yeah, it'll be interesting. But I feel weirdly enough, I feel like even in this interview it shows, I don't feel like there's a lot of bad blood here. Like I think Kentucky fans mostly like Braylon Mullins still. And Braylon is still speaking pretty positively about Kentucky in a big way. Like he's going to be rooting for Malachi Moreno, his ex teammate, next year. So
Yeah, they talked about him in that interview, and also like if you're Kentucky, I know you want to be the best of the best. Go hunt for number 9. Yes, that's all good and well. Kid chooses to play for Dan Hurley and UConn. You're gonna lose some of those sometimes.
also like in the transfer portal era, can you never say never?
Never say never. Go get the help you need, Beebs.